Hey folks, Matt Sharp here with another Pacific Angler Friday Fishing Report. We're filming for May 20th, so if it's nowhere near May 20th, click up here. This is a link to all the Friday Fishing Reports. We do it most weeks, so I should have something more up to date for you. This week, we're going to have to talk about lake fishing. I hope you guys are all going to have a great long weekend getting out on the water, and I know many of you are probably going to be hitting the lakes. We're going to have some cool insights this week. Lake fishing has been good. The slow spring has meant that things haven't got hot quickly, and that's made for some great fishing. It's had some interesting ones as well when people are getting hailed on, snowed on, or 40-knot winds coming at them sideways, but in between those windows of nasty weather, things have been excellent. Almost all the folks at the shop have been getting out. I've got reports from Sterling, reports from Gavin, I got reports from Jay, I got reports from myself. I've been out a couple times in the last little bit. And I got some interesting insights from all those guys because we've been fishing basically all the way up the province. And so we're going to talk about some blob fishing that we saw. We're going to talk about some cool chironomid stuff, some observations and stuff you guys might be able to put into use if you're heading out over the next 2 weeks. We've also got a little bit of gear as well because I've walked into a couple boats that weren't mine, and I have some gear that I bring with me that really changed the game. So if you guys are going up and maybe you're staying at one of the lodges that have boats, I've got a couple things that are sort of game changing, quite simple, not too expensive, but you definitely want to consider bringing with you if you're going to a boat that isn't yours so you can set it up to fly fish well. We're going to talk a little bit about saltwater. Now, the coho haven't arrived yet. Coho and the Cap have. We've had some decent reports off the Cap. If you want to go out for a hike, it is worth it right now. And you would think that if the coho were coming into the Cap, well, the coho should be in the ocean. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Those first coho seem to blast up. They don't hang out very long in the salt water around our area. It's usually the next month and even into July when we start seeing more coho numbers. So unfortunately, that's not a thing right now. However, going across the strait is really good for bottom fishing if you're looking for a spot to go out. Weather has been tough, so we haven't heard a lot of reports, but if that wind dies down, we're hopeful that you guys can get across to the back end of this weekend, and it could be excellent because not many guys have been there. On the prawning front, they have opened the commercial prawning, so we do expect that to slow down. Crabbing, however, has been excellent, so it's worth getting out. Now, the Chinook fishing, as you guys know, in most of the waters is closed to fishing, period. If you guys want to go for a charter, there's an interesting opportunity right now that I really encourage. We're doing a bunch of genetic work out there, and it's an important genetic work where we want to get as many samples as possible. So there's data for the scientists to try to make science-based management decisions going forward. And the fishing's really darn good. So if you can get out there, support a good cause, you guys want to go out on a charter where we have a permit to do that genetic work, give us a call at the shop. It's definitely worth getting out. On the storefront, we've got a new product, and it's kind of a fun one, kind of one that I smile about. We've got carp gear in. Now, you guys know me, I love fly fishing for carp. I'm not all that experienced at it. It's something that I do 2 or 3 times a year, but I absolutely love it. It's the coolest thing, one of the hardest things you can do in the warm months of the summer with a fly rod. Gear fishing for them is also tons of fun. We've never really had the right gear. Not many folks really do it right. In other countries around the world, you'll see most shops dedicated to carp fishing, but here it's kind of an afterthought. Luckily, we have Gavin. He's really into this stuff, really knows the game, and he's brought in the key essential carp stuff. We've got bite detectors. We've got stuff like this. I don't even know what this is. I bought it. I'm going to play with it this summer. It should be cool. We're going to show you guys how to use that if you come into the shop, or if you're a guy who already knows how to do it. If you just want to source for some good, decent carp gear locally, we're going to have that in stock for you now, so I want you to check that out. Last but not least, we are going to talk about the rivers, and we're going to talk about freshet. We're going to talk about sturgeon fishing. Freshet is kicking in. Now, we've had a wonderful late season when it comes to our rivers. Usually they're well out, probably late April, but we've had a wonderful extended season. I will say they're getting there now. You might still get a last kick at the can if you're looking up Squamish Way, if maybe you're going to go out Harrison. I am going to do some cutthroat fishing sort of lower down on the systems this weekend, which I'm looking forward to, but I do think we're right at the back end, if not past the freshet point. What is freshet? It's when all the rivers blow out because of snow melt, and it's coming. It definitely affects sturgeon fishing. Ethan's got a little update on what we're seeing with the water levels because you can absolutely fish sturgeon through it, but it's got some caveats you want to think about. So we're going to look at the weather. We're going to see what's coming. I hope everyone has an awesome weekend, and as always, you want to see more fishing reports like this, consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into it. All right, everyone. Cheers to Friday. Thanks for tuning in with me. I hope everybody gets out there and enjoys their time. Let's look at the weather first because that's important. We're going to do that really quick and brief. We're finally going to see some high teens in the Vancouver area, which is great. Friday looks awesome. Saturday looks awesome. Sunday looks awesome. Monday might have a little bit of rain. It is what it is. I'm actually out fishing that day, but I'll take a little bit of overcast as long as it doesn't get too windy. When we're looking at the winds in the Vancouver area, it's windy right now. We're getting walloped. I'm filming for Thursday night, just so you guys know what we're looking at on the weather. But it shouldn't be too bad. We've got sort of 10s, 9s, 7s calming down, and we're hopeful that that means we're going to be able to get across the strait to maybe do some bottom fishing. As always, check your marine forecast before you go because we have seen some goofy weather on the wind front over the last 2 weeks. We want everyone to be safe out there. But at least looking at this, we might have some opportunities. All right, let's talk lake fishing because that's going to be important for many of you getting out there, and it has been excellent. I'm just going to pull up Kamloops weather, and we've got kind of a mixed bag. Sunday looks nice in Kamloops. We're going to see 20s, which we haven't seen many of. That's going to be warming up nicely. You're going to be sort of kicked around on Friday. Saturday, maybe a little bit of a mix. Things seem to change really quickly up there, and the weatherman's been way off his game when I've been looking at my trips where it said one thing one day and it's been totally the opposite. We did get snowed on last weekend. We got wind last week when I was out, but then I had one really stable day and the fishing was phenomenal. I've had really good reports from, ironically, the blob. As much as we hate that pattern, as much as some people think maybe it's cheating, it's a very effective thing to use when you're either not sure what the fish are biting on, you think they're hungry and there's no bugs coming off. We found one day when there wasn't any chironomids coming off that the fish were really hungry because the weather had been unstable, but now things had sort of calmed down and were more settled. And that seemed to be a really hot ticket. I had 2 or 3 reports of that this weekend where after nasty weather, no bugs were coming off, but things got stable and fish really wanted to feed, but there was no food. So that's when the blob does really well. Funnily enough, as the day progressed, probably later than normal, we had a chironomid hatch about 1 o'clock, and then that bite changed completely. Everything was on chironomids from that point. So good searching pattern early in the morning before hatches come off. Good one to have in the mix if you're not sure what's going on. Put it under indicator, super fun. I got some pictures here worth looking at. I've got a little write-up on a few of the observations that I had. Now, I'm not a master at this technique at all. It's sort of been an afterthought or a Hail Mary. But for me and one other guy over the last 2 weeks, it was a game changer and put up some really good numbers. And I'm not sure if it's because of the unsettled weather or we just happen to be at the right place at the right time, but something to consider for the weekend if you're getting bounced around by weather. The chironomid hatches were good right throughout. Almost all the lakes are iced off, even right into some of the higher elevation areas. And most of the major ones in the mid elevations are going to be turned over, so you should be in good shape for this weekend. If you catch a lake on turnover, you're just going to have to move. The wind's been pushing so hard that we don't expect to see too much of that for everybody heading out this weekend. All right, gear. I said I was going to talk a little bit of gear, and I'm not going to flog a lot of gear here, but I've got this guy, and I've had this for a bunch of years, and I carry it with me. I did just make a tweak to it that I wanted to share with you guys. First off, what is it? Well, it's a Scotty canoe mount, I think they call it. It might be a kayak mount, but this guy clamps on to any boat, and it's really easy. Now, obviously, you have your own boat. You're going to have it set up. We've got our boat. It's set up. It's got everything where it needs, cup holders where you need them. Everything's perfect. Sometimes, however, maybe you got a buddy you're going out with, and he has one rod holder, so he's not used to fishing two, or you're going to one of the lodges or areas where you can rent a boat. They don't always have it set up right. I'm going to give you guys 2 tips that I put in my kit at all times. First is this guy with an R8, I think it's called, with an R8 rod holder. And these are awesome for strike indicator work. They can also be tightened up a little bit, and you can even troll with them. And it's really quick and easy. The other nice thing about this is we can mount it onto the boat and move it from side to side. One of the problems, however, is you can't pivot this head as easily as you like. And Scotty came out a couple years ago with discs that you can stick in here. I don't know if you can see that yellow thing there, but I highly recommend, I think they're like, $8 or something like that. And then I can pivot this head and get very incremental changes instead of before when you have to sort of pick only 1 or 2 or 3 angles. Quick and easy, grab this, put this in your kit. You never know when you're gonna be in a boat that's just not quite right, but you definitely need a rod holder. I did see a rod go over the edge this weekend just because it's hard. I had a rod this weekend actually run almost over the edge, and I managed to grab it. And I had another person whose name will go unmentioned who had a double header on, lost the rod, managed to get it back because his indicator was bobbing up in the middle of the lake with a massive fish on the end of it. So long story short, get rod holders on the boat or bring them if you are renting/borrowing a boat. Highly recommend it when it comes to indicator fishing. And these little discs are really useful. I wish I'd had them earlier. Put them on this season and loved it. So there's the gear talk. Just get that. Oh, also, bring an anchor, and bring a big anchor, not like a 5 or 8 or 9 pounder. If you can throw a rope and a 20-pound anchor in, you never know what the boat's going to come with, and it might only come with one. Having a 20-pound anchor that you own personally, put it away, even if you don't have a boat, then anytime you're walking into one of these rental boat situations, you can throw it over the side, get depth. You want 50 feet of rope with that, and have nice rope, not the yellow plasticky stuff. Get some decent stuff. We do have really nice rope at the shop. If you want to come down, we got those anchors as well. Shameless sales pitch over, but these things will make your life way easier and might save a $1,000 rod going over the side. Yes, that rod that did go over the side, both of them were over $1,000. Ugh, that hurts. Okay, so let's now look at the carp gear. Kind of fun. I'm gonna put some pictures up here. I really love carp fishing. I think there's tons of opportunities for it in the lower mainland, in the interior, and no one really does it. If you guys want to talk about fly fishing carp, come on down. I'd love to geek out with you. I'm learning it. I do it a lot, but I still say I'm an intermediate or a novice at best, just because it's not something that I get to do 20, 30, 40 days out of the year. But I am putting in sort of 4 to 5 days on it a year, and taking what I've done with bone fishing and trigger fish and permit. It's very similar. It's just kind of as close as you can get to that stalk and hunt style fly fishing. But the gear side of it can get really technical. It can be as easy as putting a chunk of corn on a hook and throwing a weight out, and you will catch the odd fish. But when you get technical with it, it can be really cool. Now, we've got the bite indicators. We've got bank sticks, which will set you up right at the right angle. So come on down if you want to talk about that. It's one that I have fun with. It's just because it's such a weird niche fishery, and I'm into those kind of things. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk more about fisheries that are sort of general for you guys. Cap's worth looking at. Get out there, float fish. Get out there, fly fish if the water levels are right. We'll start talking about that more over the next little bit. But it is a challenging fishery. It's not going to be an easy fly fishery if you're new to fly fishing. And if you're a float fisherman, you should be able to tackle it, but just know that you're going to have to spend some time hiking and be careful out there when it comes to the high banks and canyonous trails when you're trying to get into the water. On the beach fishing, that should be worth looking at soon. It's still a little early, but we should start seeing beach fishing pick up. And I'm actually going to go beach fishing for cutthroat this week and see what we can find in the ocean. And I'm looking forward to that. I'll report back on that more. And I do expect us to have another week or two of that if the freshet doesn't kick in too hard and flush all the fry back out to the ocean. Now, let's talk about freshet, because it's an interesting one, and it ties into a lot of our rivers, if you're still thinking for a river shot this weekend, which there are opportunities, but it also ties into sturgeon fishing, which has been excellent, continues to be excellent. We are seeing a lot more debris in the Fraser River, which means you've got to be a lot safer when it comes to both your bank fishing as well as your boat fishing if you are getting out there. And so this is the Fraser. I'll put this up on the screen for us, but we can see this time frame was May 1. We're actually below May 1 numbers right now when you look at it, plus or minus. So it's slow, but freshet did kick in a little bit earlier last year. And so we are seeing it go, and we do expect it to go harder over the weekend with warmer weather coming in the Vancouver area. So just keep your eye on it. If you're on the rivers, be safe, but there still should be opportunities. Talking about opportunities, Squamish is like a 3, just dipped to a 2.8, which I would consider fishable. It is going back up, and you do expect that to go back up. So keep your eye on that. It could be definitely worth a last kick at the can, but I can't see it going past this weekend. It should go vertical when we get some of that 20-degree weather that we're hopefully going to see in the 14-day trend. All right, guys, last but not least, I've got a fun video for you. The video comes with a little bit of a moral / fishing tip hidden in it. If you've got a fly box for 3 or 4 years, take a look at it. There's one thing that's going to happen is that as you fish, you're going to fish your good flies, you're going to lose them. You're not going to fish your crappy flies, or the ones that you don't have confidence in. And so what happens is your box ends up getting filled up with, well, crappy flies. And so you got to reorganize them, and you got to be merciless. You got to throw out flies that you haven't fished, or at least put them into another box and save them for a rainy day. But I did it with the mothership finally. My daughter and I sat down, organized it all. You guys might be able to pick up on some of the flies that I like to fish and how this was organized, but more so I hope it's just chilling and relaxing for you. If you want to see that video, I'm going to stick that up here. And as always, you want to see more fishing reports like this, consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to catch you in 2 weeks.